So you want to learn to fly fish. Here's what you need to know to get started.
That's a big brown bro.
Hi, I'm Curtis Fry from Fly Fish Food. We've been making videos for a lot of years, and this is probably one of our first in a series of new revamped videos to help you get started in fly fishing. First, let's just talk about what fly fishing is. So, what is fly fishing? In a nutshell, fly fishing is a way of fishing, taking a lure or a fly and propelling it with a rod, reel, and line, getting a fish to eat it, and then fighting, landing, usually releasing, but sometimes eating the fish. So, how is this different than, say, conventional gear with a spinning rod? Well, the main difference with fly fishing is that instead of like with a spinning rod, where you have a relatively heavy lure or bait, that is used to propel the monofilament line to your target. With a fly, flies are often very lightweight and there's not enough weight on these bones to propel your line outward. So what they do instead is they design the fly rod. This is just a small toy sample practice rod, but it shows the concept quite nicely. Is this rod acts as a long lever arm with weight found in the line itself. So the line is really what propels in conjunction with the rod. The energy that these two provide are what ultimately will propel the fly to the area that you want to fish and ultimately hopefully catch a fish at the same time. Okay, one of the reasons why fly fishing is so fun, I think, and what others have told us, is that largely you're imitating what the trout or any other game fish is going to eat. In this case, it could be a fly that floats on the water, or it could be another fish or a smaller bait fish that they would chase after. So you're always looking to try to find either something the fish would normally eat, could be something that makes them upset or gets them territorial. But the idea is that you're trying to trick the fish into eating something that he thinks might be food. Okay, we have a series of videos. If this is the first video you're watching, it's good because we have a whole series of other videos that will break down each of these topics into separate videos. So if you want to check in the links below, each of those videos will be highlighted. You can also click on another link below, which will take you to a full web page with everything listed out. So if you're just getting into fly fishing, this is the way to go because we're going to walk you literally through everything you need to know to learn to fly fish. So let's start off by talking about the rod, the reel, and the line. Those are the three probably major components to the system that you're going to use to fish. So a rod, in most trout waters, say a common rod designation, is a 9-foot 5 weight. The weights on the rods, all the rods that you'll see will have a weight designation. Those tell you the size of line that the rod is designed to carry. And fly lines, which are this colorful piece that's on the reel, is what ultimately propels your fly. So this rope here represents the fly line. And so each rod is designed to cast a certain weight line. And that's where when you see 5 weight or 6 weight or 7 weight, the bigger the number, the heavier the line that rod is designed to cast. So typically speaking, that also translates to the size of the fish that you're going to cast to or catch. So if you're going after small stream fish, you may need only a 2 or 3 or 4 weight. If you're going after bigger trout and rivers, a 4, 5, 6, bigger trout, salmon, steelhead, you're starting to look at 7, 8, 9, and then up into saltwater and bigger game fish on up. So the rod sizes run the gamut. The thing is that has to match is the rod, which is designed to cast the line that is put onto the reel. And the reel also is going to join in that size grouping there. So you wouldn't necessarily put or be able to put a 10 weight line on a 3 weight reel. It wouldn't be big enough, wouldn't have enough capacity. So those are the three components that you tend to need to match or get really close. The rods and the lines for sure, the reels usually have a little bit of leeway either way. But the rod, the reel, and the line, and they run the gamut of prices. A lot of entry-level options. If you're just getting into the sport, we totally understand you don't want to spend your life savings on an outfit. That's why we have a lot of outfits. A lot of them listed below. These are beginner outfits. The best, probably quickest way to get into fly fishing is just to get one of these outfits. Then you don't have to worry about it. It comes with the reel, all the line, the backing, which is the stuff here that attaches the reel to the line to the reel, and then of course the rod. This one also has what's called a leader on there, and we'll have another video where we talk a little bit more about lines and leaders and tippets. But in general, you have the rod, the reel, and on the reel you have your backing, which is a material that just is used to take up space on the reel, give you some extra safety length if you need to fight a fish and it goes out further. Then you have your fly line. Fly lines are then attached to a leader, which is a monofilament, usually tapered piece of material, usually 7.5 to 12 feet long. And then attached to that you have what's called tippet, which is just, again, monofilament, could be nylon, could be fluorocarbon, that you would then tie to the leader, and then the tippet finally goes to the fly. But again, click on the link below. There will be a video on leader and tippet. So we've got rod, reel, line, and then the final piece of that would be your flies. And we'll have another video on how to know which flies to throw and kind of the differences that you'll see there. But the main idea here is that you're trying to match the forage base or the food or some other mechanism of what the fish that you're casting to that they will attack or eat. So that's what flies are doing. And there's thousands and thousands of options for flies. In our shop alone, we have about 2,000 different flies. So lots of things that the fish like to eat. Okay, beyond just the starting gear, a couple things that you're gonna need to know. You're gonna have to know, I would say, 2 knots. We've got videos as well that show you how to do the knots. But you're gonna have to know how to tie a clinch knot, which is what you use to tie the fly onto the tippet. And then you typically wanna learn to tie a triple surgeon's knot, which helps you attach tippet to different sections of tippet or leader. Again, we'll get to that in the leader and tippet video, but those are 2 good knots. You just look in our videos. We have in our YouTube playlists all these knots that you can see how to tie. Gives you a close-up of how to tie them so you can practice those. Once you have a handle on the knots and you want to get out on the water, before I do that, I would practice casting. Now, casting is a topic. We'll have a video listed for some beginning casting tips. But casting is one thing you need to at least have some experience before you get to the river to start casting and throwing your flies at the fish. So casting is essentially mastering the technique, or at least learning the technique, to use your rod as a gigantic lever arm, and also a little bit of a spring that can store energy and release it so that your fly will be magically transported to a waiting fish's mouth. But casting in and of itself is a pretty complex concept. It takes a little bit of practice, but you can get the basics down and practice those, get to the river and still catch fish in a relatively short amount of time. So I'd say casting is probably the biggest barrier to entry in the sport. But again, we've got some videos listed. You can Google up. There's lots of resources on casting. The concept there is practice, practice, practice. Casting will be something that you need to at least learn how to do. All right, aside from casting, there's going to be some basic gear that you need. We'll talk about that in another video. We're just going to kind of lay down you as a beginner, what is the basic, most minimum stuff that you need to be able to get from wherever you are to the water with enough stuff to catch a fish, because hopefully, ultimately, that is your goal. And the final piece of the equation are the fish. So once you have the gear and you have a little bit of the knowledge, the other thing is you have to know maybe where to go. And if you're just starting out, you may not have any clue. Well, here's a big tip. Fish live in water. If you live near water, you probably live near fish. And you probably already know this. So seek out local resources, local fly shops. The local area is going to be your biggest resource to finding where the fish are and maybe what they're going to be doing. The fish, the type of fish, if you're in saltwater coastal area or if you're in warm water, sort of bassy water, there's a lot of different things that drive the flies, the rod, the reel, the line, the leader, the tippet, all based on the fish that you want to go after. So if you're just doing trout, and again, anything else, we'll talk about that in our other videos. But for now, like and subscribe. The other videos will be listed below, but this is the first video. And you can go back to our main webpage that lists all the other lessons. This is basically an online resource of how to get started in fly fishing. This is the first step, being the overview. The next one we're going to talk about is we're going to dive into the rods and the reels and the lines a little bit more. So like and subscribe. We'll see you out there on the water.